Well, you survived your third exam. So now we're talking about the respiratory system. The respiratory system is the system of the human body that allows us to obtain oxygen and to expel carbon dioxide. The respiratory system plays a small role in homeostasis of pH of the human body, but mostly it is meant for gas exchange. Um, I think I've said this before, but as humans here on planet Earth, we don't think of ourselves as being particularly large. And that's because we know about things like elephants and whales, right? But from the perspective of life on planet Earth, we are very large. And one of the problems that a being as large as us has is that the oxygen that is around us in the air cannot diffuse to all the cells of our body. And so the respiratory system works in conjunction with the transportation system, which was the cardiovascular system, in order to deliver the oxygen and take away the waste product, which is carbon dioxide. So, why do we breathe? Basically, in with the new air, out with the old air. We want to provide oxygen to the blood so the blood can take it to all of the cells of the body, and we want to get rid of carbon dioxide. Right? That's basically what we're doing. So let's talk a little bit about air. I think that when you and I think about the air around us, we think of it as being oxygen, but it's not. It's only about 21% oxygen. That might be kind of surprising. Here's something you should know for the next exam. The air is about 79% nitrogen. Now, why is that good? Well, it's good for a couple of reasons. First of all, oxygen is flammable. As a matter of fact, oxygen, if you had 100% oxygen in the air around us, then a spark that is caused by, scuffing your feet across the carpet or something like that, that little spark could cause an explosion. So you should be glad it's not 100% oxygen around us. Another thing that humans don't think about is that oxygen is a toxic gas. You heard me right. Oxygen is poisonous. Oxygen is a toxic gas. Now that seems kind of crazy. Tidal, how can you say it's poisonous if we actually need it to live? Well, both things can be true. It's poisonous because if I was forcing you to live in some sort of a building that was filled with nothing but 100% oxygen, you actually couldn't survive there for very long. Okay, I'm not saying you're going to die right away, but you probably would start to get headaches within 24 or 48 hours. And within a week or so, you probably would end up having seizures and going blind and dying. And you might wonder why that is. And that's because oxygen is highly reactive. As a matter of fact, if you thought about it very much, you might have even assumed that oxygen was damaging to the human body because so many times when commercials advise us to take this particular supplement, they're telling us we should take it because it is high in antioxidants. Well, what are antioxidants? They are molecules that prevent the damage caused by oxidation, oxygen, all right? Now, the air around us has mostly nitrogen, and now you know why that's good, just about 21% oxygen. It has almost no carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide, where's my pen? Its formula is capital C, capital O with a subscript 2. So carbon dioxide is CO, lower script 2, CO2, carbon dioxide. So there's almost no carbon dioxide in the air around us. When your cells use oxygen, they will make carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the waste product from the way mitochondria use oxygen and use oxygen and glucose in order to make ATP molecules that are the energy molecules for all of your cells, right? So the more oxygen your body uses, the more carbon dioxide it makes. We inhale oxygen. Oxygen goes from the outside air to all of our cells, and oxygen doesn't come back out. What comes back out is this stuff, CO2. Now, I know you're probably like me and you're going, but hey, the oxygen is there. Yeah, okay, the oxygen is there. The element oxygen doesn't go away. But it is not correct to say that oxygen is being moved backwards, because with oxygen, we're talking about molecular oxygen or oxygen gas. Down here at sea level, there is a lot of oxygen in every breath of air that you take. In Denver, there are fewer molecules of oxygen in every breath of air that you take. And that is one of the reasons why down here at sea level, we don't need that many red blood cells per drop of blood compared to up in Denver, Colorado. And we know now, after studying the blood, how your body compensates for that. Here in AP 120, make sure you can answer these kinds of questions for your final exam. Make sure you know all of the organs of the respiratory system. The organs of the respiratory system do not include the mouth, all right? Mouth is part of the digestive system, not part of the respiratory system. As the body was designed, air is supposed to go up through your nose. And once it goes up here, it'll go boom, and it'll hit right up against that spot right there. And right there, not a coincidence, that is where you will find the chemoreceptor cells that allow you to detect odors, scents in the air. And then the air, it goes tumbling across these things that you now know are called the nasal conchae. And then it'll get back here where your pharyngeal tonsils are. And then it hits there, and it has to boom, go down your pharynx. After it goes down your pharynx, it'll have to take another turn, boof, out here into the larynx, and then it'll go down your trachea. And after your trachea, it'll come right here to this little triangular piece of cartilage called the carina, right there, C-A-R-I-N-A. And from the carina, it'll have to pick. It'll either go into the right lung by going down the right primary bronchus, or it'll go to the left lung by going down the left primary bronchus. And then it'll go into secondary bronchi, tertiary bronchi, and finally it'll end up in bronchioles and ultimately into the alveoli. The alveoli are what people often casually refer to as air sacs in the lungs. Air sacs might imply that there's something that you could see if you were just glancing at them. No, alveoli are microscopically small, so you couldn't actually see them. They're not actually like sacs. Now, one of the things you should have noticed in my description of the path that air takes is, wow, air's making all kinds of turns. It's going in here, it's making a turn. It tumbles across the conchae, it gets here, it makes a turn. It gets here, it makes a turn. It gets here, it makes a turn. The air is being turned all over the place. Now, that seems very inefficient. And you know what? It is. It's inefficient. This system of respiration is not designed for efficiency primarily. Okay, we don't want a super inefficient system, but more important to your human body in the acquisition of oxygen, more important than efficiency is making sure that when the air gets down into these microscopically small air sacs called alveoli, that when the air gets there, it is warm, it's at body temperature, it is humid, very humid, lots of water vapor in it, and it is clean. And all of this apparent inefficiency serves to warm the air, add humidity to the air, and clean the air. And we'll talk about that. All right. So in general, airflow starts at the nose, then it goes down the pharynx. You know, there are three parts now: nasopharynx, oropharynx, laryngopharynx. Oops, I should have put larynx in there. Then through the larynx, then to the trachea, then to the bronchi, primary, secondary, tertiary. The lungs start at the bronchi. From the bronchi, primary, secondary, tertiary, it goes into bronchioles and ultimately into the alveoli. Now, one of the ways that the respiratory system is different from the cardiovascular system is in the cardiovascular system, blood keeps going around and around and around and around. But in the respiratory system, air goes in and then air goes back out. Air goes in and then air goes back out. All right? The respiratory system is divided up into the upper respiratory tract, the parts that are here in the head and the neck, and that's the nose through the larynx, and then the lower respiratory tract, the trachea through the lungs. These divisions of the respiratory system is partly related to our understanding of the way viral infections happen and bacterial infections. If a patient has got a virus that attacks their upper respiratory tract, well, it'll give them a heck of a head cold, maybe a wicked bad sore throat, maybe laryngitis, but it will almost never be life-threatening. So most head colds are just upper respiratory tract infections. If you've got a sinus infection, upper respiratory tract. The infections of the lower respiratory tract are much more worrisome from a medical point of view. Viruses that can invade cells of the lower respiratory tract can cause viral pneumonias. And this is the first time that we are seeing a relationship of one of our topics to the ongoing coronavirus epidemic that we're in. This particular virus called SARS-CoV-2, it's a coronavirus, and it actually is very capable of invading cells of the lower respiratory tract. So when it invades your body, it can actually cause a viral pneumonia that can be fatal. Let's talk a little bit more about the nose. The nose is pretty remarkable. We know, of course, that this is what allows us to detect odors. We would say that our olfactory sense is found in our nose. But the nose is particularly important for cleaning the air. And I am actually going to start this topic, the nose, in my next video.